So after 4 years of waiting, it's finally here. Studio Stray Dog has made the most amazing Dragon Ball Z fan film of all time. And there's this one scene that inspired me to go as hard as they did. So I challenged myself to recreate that scene from scratch, making 2 characters and a 30-second animation in 1 week. On Thursday, 7th of July, 2022, the masterpiece dropped. And I was gassed. I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to do. It was like 1 a.m. where I was at. I had to call someone. I was calling everybody. And everybody had the same reaction.
Yo, I'm about to peep this right now. I was just looking at a trailer. This looking stupid.
10 minutes later.
Yo.
Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah.
I just saw it. This is beautiful. What the hell? Oh my God. 4 years.
What
The animation,
happened?
the
I
drawing.
can't.
This
My brain.
nigga
I can't
punched
wrap
him.
my
As soon
head
as saying, he
about.
said, "No,
Yeah, I know when Goku.
In the part where
It's mad.
Well, I can't even talk about that
Go
part.
ahead.
First off,
Yeah.
Vegeta was throwing crazy hands of Broly. Yo. I was like, what the?
Swear word. And from this conversation, the idea was planted.
Nah, I'm doing a Dragon Ball Z animation or something, bruv. I have to do something. I need to do something, bruv.
And from that moment, boom, my fate was sealed. I was going to attempt to recreate the whole... No, I lied about the whole version. I was going to recreate a scene from Legend.
In 1 week.
So, day 1, preparation. Day 1 was actually 2 days after the release of the actual video, because adult life things. But on this day, the goal was to figure out how am I gonna execute this? What scene was I going to recreate? What was I gonna need to make this happen? Will I be able to do this within a week's time frame? The answer is yes. It's always yes. So, I watched the video again another 50 times. As I was watching, there was always one scene that stood out to me. The scene that stood out to me the most was when Goku transformed into the savior from the heavens. For the purposes of this video, that's going to be a lot for me to say, so we're going to be calling him Beast Mode. This scene was perfect. Not only did it just take me back to my childhood, remembering when I used to scream in a mirror thinking I could turn Super Saiyan, I also thought in my head, this is executable. This is something I could do within a week. All I would need is 2 character models, 1 location, and some special effects. I already have the baseline here as a reference, so how hard could it be? Right, guys? Right? Pain. So, I picked up my stylus, opening up Blender, staring at the screen with intent, determination, knowing I was about to embark onto a journey not many people will take. And as my pen approaches my canvas, I sleep at my desk because, like I said, tired. Adult stuff. 2 days ago. Day 2. I'm refreshed. I'm re-energized. I'm ready to get back into the challenge. So I open up Blender once again and begin Goku's base model. So first things first, I use a sphere and then I start molding out the base head shape. Then I move on to the actual facial features. I start carving out the nose, the eyes, the mouth, the normal stuff a face has. The main thing I had in mind was not to make it a one-to-one recreation of the fan piece or the original design of Goku. I was aiming for somewhere near the middle, plus having my own style on top, so it wasn't exactly the same as what we've seen before, but be recognizable as something that was familiar. Once I was happy with the base foundation of Goku's head, I moved on to the hair, and let me tell you about the hair. The hair was mythical. I did not know how to approach this. Because of how it's drawn, it works in 2D, but in 3D, no. What does it look like this way? Like, it's literally, if you look at the actual sorry about that. If you look at the actual character sheets, the hair is literally the same in every angle of Goku. When he's looking straight, when he's looking at the side, it's all the same. So how I approached it, I used the sphere again just to get the base hair attached to his head. Then I made spikes out of curves in a Bezier circle and just duplicated them round, trying to match it as close as possible to the front view, and then I can mess about and manipulate, and the end result, I was actually quite impressed. It actually looked like Goku's hair in 3D. I was proud. Still, I gotta chat to his barber though, bro, because like, yo, the head is done. The hair is done. Now we just have to add the body. I didn't make a body from scratch because that would have been too much work to do. So I brought in a base mesh that I've made previously and aligned the head to the body. Then I started sculpting out Goku's anatomy. Now this is something that I know I need to work on as a 3D artist. So first and foremost, I should have brought in reference for this, but I kind of eyeballed it. I just did a freehand, thinking from the top of my skull what a body looked like. My main difficulty was aligning the chest to the shoulders. As some of you pointed out on my on my TikTok, Goku has breasts, but I wanted to emphasize on the pictorial maximus. Whether I did well or not, I don't give a flying nimbus what you think. Not the best Goku I could have done, but hey, got a week. Did good enough. I wasn't gonna let that stop me. We had to continue. So I got the base forms down of Goku's body. Now it was just the clothes. I had to do the bottoms and the boots. This was relatively easy because I already had the base form of his body. I just had to mask the bottom, extract it, and then start sculpting out the folds and crevices of the gi. Now we got the head, the hair, the body, the bottoms, the shoes, the clothes. But we was far from done. This is not animation ready. We had to embark on the journey
Every 3D modeler dreads. Retopology.
For those that don't know, retopology is creating a lower res version of your high poly mesh, which is your sculpt, so that it is ready for animation, it's ready for game engines, film, the more optimized version of what's been created so far. Think of it like the base mesh that we've just made is the muscles of Goku. Now we have to do retopology, which is the skin on top. So this isn't the traditional way to do retopo. Normally you would have to go square by square over the whole of the model, which I have not got time for. So I went the cheap and dirty route, which it's not really that cheap and dirty. It's actually a pretty good way to get topology down, if you know what you're doing. Unfortunately, I do. So first things first, we separate different parts of the body like the arms, the legs, the head, the eye sockets, the mouth. We mask those and separate them into polygroups. Once they are in their polygroups, there is a tool called the Z Remesher in ZBrush. It basically takes the polygroups you made and puts it together as usable topology. This method is pretty efficient if you take your time when using it, but because of the crunch, I didn't really use it the best way. So I was just praying it didn't look
Sugar honey iced tea.
Day 3.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
So now with my new retopo model, I had to go into edit mode and create seams to separate different parts to make a UV map which will allow me to texture my models. This process wasn't that hard because of the retopo method that I used, but some of the spaces where details was required, it was hard for me to actually seam them out properly, but I made it work to a certain degree. Once the UV map was done, keeping track of where I put each part of the model in the map, it was now time for us to bring our model to life with some texturing. And for that, I'm using my favorite program of choice, Adobe Substance Painter. Substance Painter was literally made for texturing, and it had some tools that would speed up the process because time is not on our side. I really should have just downloaded a model, innit? With Substance Painter open, we import our model, and the first thing we want to do is bake the high poly mesh on top of it. Reason why we want to do this, we want to maintain the details that we got from our original sculpt, but have the benefits of our low poly optimized model so we can animate. From here, I stuck quite close to the fan animation's outfit as a reference. Substance Painter kind of works like Photoshop. You have different layers for different parts of the body, and you just have to highlight which part you want the layer to be a part of. Pretty straightforward, this part. I just focused on following the reference and gradually making it look like Goku. Once we were done with that, we can now export this texture and bring it into Blender. Here's the results in Blender with the toon shader I've made prior. I was very happy with the results, I can't lie. Like, doing this in 2 days, I really felt like a Super Saiyan. I really did. But there was still more to be added. But we will come back to that because you'll see. Right now, let's rig. So rigging was pretty straightforward as well. I'm not the best at rigging, so I have an add-on that someone has made in Blender called Auto Rig Pro, which allows me to put the points of where I want my character's joints to be, and it will automatically come up with a rig. After the skinning process, I went and tested out all the joints and everything seemed to be in shape. The only thing I forgot was the tail, but that's a minor fix. I added that later down the line, but yeah. Also added a facial rig just so I could get a couple expressions out of Goku, but the topology wasn't the best, so I was limited in what expressions I could do, but I could make it work. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to animate. Day 4, animation part 1. This was where I would excel. This is where my expertise will shine. Here's how I did it. So I had Blender on one screen and the fan animation on the other, just playing about and trying to figure out how to match this sequence, but do it in my own way. And this was the approach. Goku is a lot more jittery in my take. I started playing a lot with the graph editor. I've never really touched the graph editor before, but it was a really good tool in this particular case to help emphasize Goku's frustration and anger in this moment. By using a noise modifier on the rotation of his arms, it gave the illusion that he was tensing in rage. I also added some sparks like in the original series when they turned Super Saiyan. I used grease pencil for this and I just drew frame by frame where I wanted the sparks to be and then copied and pasted for the duration of the piece. Then I brought in the camera and started playing about with shots there. There's not much to say about this sequence because there's not much animation involved in it. It was more setting the tone, building the anticipation for what's about to come later down the line. The whole goal was to sell the emphasis of. Here's the results of scene 1. Pretty good if you ask me. I added a little bit of a red light flashing as well to foreshadow what is to come, Beast Mode Goku. And yeah, I would have shown more of this process, but OBS started to play up on me and yeah, it just stopped halfway through. I was doing my thing. I was like locked in, so it was too late at that point. But yeah, this was the first section. Now scene 2 was, I would say, the most frustrating part of this project because it took the most time out of my animation stage. There's a part where Goku has this black mark on his chest and it's spreading across his body. I did not know how to approach this in Blender. I haven't done anything like this before, so back to the lab. So we open up the shader editor and I have my base toon shader there, but now I have to create a mask so that this black mark would spread across his body. And the node setup for this was so crazy. I spent majority of day 4 trying to figure this out. I'll show you the nodes now. Like, some people that work with Blender will understand this, but I still don't even understand it. My organization for this one was very, very bad. So, but it got the job done. I had empty that controlled how the black marks would spread across Goku's chest and neck. So that was my fix. Blender heads, if you know a better way of doing something like this, because I would love to be able to do like morphing textures, please let me know down below in the comments. But I made it work in my own Frankenstein way. After the scene I wouldn't need it, so I'm back to the animation. Now we got that out the way, I brought a camera in and got a close-up of Goku to show how this mark was going to spread across his body. staying relatively close to the fan animation piece as a reference. But because of the lack of control of facial expressions, I played a lot with shaky cam. This is why I love and I hate shaky cam. One, shaky cam can emphasize a lot of moments in your films, but when used incorrectly, it can come off as cheap and like you're hiding something. At this point, I was hiding something. I couldn't show his face, so shaky cam. Then I tried to replicate the tail shot. This was pretty simple because all I had to do was make a transitional shader from the normal color of his tail to a glowing yellow power shot tail. And I also added some particle effects just to show like the burst of energy. Then I animated the tail so it did that whiplash of when it changes into like the super tail. And this was the result of that scene. These scenes were pretty much filler, but now it was time for me to channel my ultra instinct mode. Now here was the most fun part for me because I got to go back to my 2D roots. This was the section for me that made me want to do all of this right now that you are seeing on the screen. When Goku breathes out fire, it flies back into his face, and then boom, man got fire head, new transformation. We were not seeing that coming, bruv. It was executed perfectly. So first things first, we get the base foundation of the animation. Just there, ready, good to go. And this took a little bit of time, and I also tweaked it more as I went along, even when I was doing the 2D stuff. The hair was an issue for me because in the original fan film, you see a lot of flow, a lot of motion, and that's one thing that 3D is limited with unless you design it to be that way. So my solution for this was to create shape keys, one that would rotate the hair backwards as if like the breeze was blowing it back, and then a secondary shape key that I assigned to the graph editor that would flutter in the wind. That was my fix, and I'm a genius.
I've been doing this more than you.
Once I did that, I looked back at the reference for the 2D flame effects, checked it out, analyzed, studied, and then I jumped back into Blender and just done my thing. I can't emphasize enough how fun it was to do this part of the project, because really I was free flowing. Like, even though I had the reference, I was just playing about and doodling. I was squiggling, just squiggly lines, squiggle, 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 squiggle. Move the origin point so it covers the face, and then squiggle, 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 squiggle. I also had to shrink the hair so that it didn't pop out outside of the flames that I was drawing. After all of the squiggles, this was the final result, and I was so happy with it. But one issue. My man is bald now. This ain't my Goku. The flames charred his skull. Looking like Kaya. My brother looking like an 8-ball, bro. Nah. Of course I got a fix. I saved the best till last. Now here we are. We are about to create Goku's new form, Beast Mode. And I had to get this right. I had to give the respect that this creation deserves. So I started off with the same method that I did with base Goku's head. I brought in a sphere and started molding out the head shape. I didn't have to make the body again because we already had our base template. The main focus was just making sure that the eyes and the teeth were prominent. They were there. You could feel them. So I used a mask to carve out the mouth, and I used a mask again for the eye sockets. Then I brought in a Taurus. Then I started pulling out the vertices so that I could create the fangs. Once I did that, I refined the head model a bit more so that it fit and blended well together. Then I added some eyeballs for the eyes. Then I brought in another sphere for the base head and started playing with some texturing. I wanted to add like the glowing eyes and the teeth, just so I had an idea of what it would look like prior to the hair. I also made some curves again, so the same method I did with base Goku's hair. Once I was happy with the overall shape of the base hair and where I placed the spikes, I meshed everything together so it was just one piece of geometry to work with. And then I went back and molded, tweaked, added the shader on top. I did like a special shader for the hair as well, so that you could see the rim of the flames. And then once I was happy with the overall shape, I started Retopo. Retopo was quicker than before because I weren't doing any heavy texture work, so I just used Blender's default remesh tool to get a basic topology going, and yeah, I was set. Once I did that, I wanted to rig the hair so I had control of how the momentum of the flames would move. Pretty simple rig. It was just an IK rig, inverse kinematics. I hope I said that right. An IK rig is basically where all the bones are following one bone controller. Once I did that, pretty straightforward after that. I added some particle effects to the hair. With the controller, I made it so it swayed left and right. And I was pretty much good to go. The last thing I had to do was blend the hair on top of the actual base mesh. And how I did that was, I created a mask so that the beast texture would blend in with the fire material. And this is how I made it look seamlessly one part of the model, and I feel like it worked. Then I added some particle effects on top. I did a displacement modifier to give a little bit more of a fire feel on top of the rig that we made. If you would like to learn how to do that, my previous tutorial, Explosion, it's the same method. Go check that out if you haven't checked it already. Yeah. But yeah, we were done. All we had to do now was import the head model onto our base mesh that we made, the transformation one, and just attach the head on top. I had to delete the original head that was gone, and then we put the other one on top, and now boom, we have Beast Mode Goku. Even though we're not going to see the front of Beast Mode Goku that much, I wanted to repaint the mask that I did for the transformation just so it was more defined and prominent. But yeah, once that all was done, we had Beast Mode Goku. All we had to do now was animate the reveal. So to fix the problem of Goku being bald, all I did was switch the model from base Goku to Beast Mode Goku and replayed that sequence and rendered it out. So when I was in post, all I would have to do was just time it exactly when the transformation happened. So now for the reveal, just like the first scene, there wasn't that much animation involved. It was more setting the tone. Instead of anticipation now, we were doing the payoff. So I wanted flames. I wanted sparks flying across the screen. And then as we see Goku's face, intimidation. So to achieve that, what I did was have a particle emitter at the side of the screen that will just shoot sparks in front of the scene. I found this really dope tutorial on how to make flame animations, and he actually allows you to use his blend files for free. So I'm gonna leave a link there. Shout out to you, bro. Thank you. And yeah, that really added a lot of the fiery vibe I was looking for. Lastly, I did the camera work and the same graph editing jitter effect on Goku, and I was really pleased with the results. I also added some dash lines as well. You can't really see them because of the depth of field, but I felt like that added a little bit more of intensity when we zoom in. Now everything is done. All that's left is to compile everything together in post, add a couple more effects, and then boom, it was time to reveal what was made in boom, there you go. Now that was what was made within a week. Pretty cool, right? What did we learn today? We learned that I'm built different. I did this in a week. Pat myself on the back. This is why I respect the 4-year dedication to this project, because it shows. Salute to everyone that was on board that project, because The turnout was incredible. Whether you liked it or not, you cannot deny that the amount of effort and passion showed within this piece, and also shows more than ever anyone can get into learning how to do all this stuff. It just takes a bit of patience, dedication, and willpower. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the models that were used in this breakdown, I'm actually making them available on my Patreon, so go and check that out if you're interested. If not, if you want to show some support, please leave a like, comment, subscribe so I can make more. But yeah, mission complete. I shall see you guys in the next video. Bless. Woo!